Welcome, everyone. This is the Ends Justify the Memes, the show where the lowest of the low, that is the most wretched of wretched and deplorable, to end all deplorables. Two white, heterosexual Christian males from the American South, and today a snow ape too. Talk about culture, philosophy, history, health, fitness, and what it means to be a man in the 21st century. I'll be your host, Bill, and this is my co-host and producer, Tank. So crack open a beer and lend us your ear, because the ends always justify the memes. And folks, today we have our friend, or my friend, Matt Christiansen on. A week late, but not $1 short today. So I kind of screwed up the timing on that last week. So we'll blame Matt, though. It'll be all his fault.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Sorry about the mix-up, but glad to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So with all that, guys, I'm kind of going to just let Tank talk to Matt a bit because he's got a few questions on things, and we'll see what we come up with in the short time that Matt has. So go for it, Tank.
Well, just to give everyone a little bit of an introduction who might not know who Matt is, he does a show. Well, he does his own YouTube show where he covers news, correct? Let me know if I'm getting anything wrong here.
Yeah, I do my own short videos, and I do the long form stream with Blonde, and yeah, so I'm doing kind of a variety of formatted news and politics and culture talk. Yeah,
and your new show with Blonde, I often ask a lot of people about that show, and I hear things like it's a good show, it's a great show, it's a tremendous show. Oftentimes they'll say it's simply the best. So if anyone hasn't seen it, they should probably tune in.
I'm told people often do say and hear that. So thank you for confirming what I too have been told.
But kind of one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about on this show tonight was you're a veteran of YouTube, I would say, for the culture war that's been going on.
Yeah. I mean,
you kicked the ball off for a lot of people. Well, you got into it early, 4 or 5 years ago?
I got on YouTube as a pure video game hobby in 2012, and that was not anything serious at all. And it didn't become something serious for me until the summer of 2016. And that was a convergence of a lot of things. Just the nature of shifting politics at the time. I think a lot of people, quote unquote, woke up or quote unquote took the red pill at that time when Trump was first campaigning. And just the reality for both Blonde and me, that both of our quote unquote real jobs were not satisfying and not really working out for us. So we decided to take a gamble. And that 2016 is when it became something more serious for me. But yeah, the landscape of YouTube has changed a lot, obviously since 2012, but even since 2016, people have blown up, people have gone away, people have built successful channels slow and steady. So it's certainly a different thing each and every year. And we'll see. I think 2021 is going to be the year where maybe Susan finally destroys the whole thing for this genre of content. At least.
Yeah. That's kind of what I wanted to get into tonight. Is how many followers do you have now
on YouTube? Something like 220,000 subscribers.
We're trailing right behind you at 50 followers. So you can say that we're coming up here.
It's probably about the same pace of growth, though, because we both exist in the same ghosted corner of YouTube.
Yeah.
People send me screenshots all the time. It's like, dude, I'm looking for your name on YouTube, and you don't show up in search results.
I actually don't.
Oh, yeah?
I don't see your stuff much anymore. I watch you, of course, regularly. I watch the Sunday show live almost every Sunday and often catch the call-in show. Yeah. So, I mean, and your individual content, the 2 videos you do a week rarely pull up for me.
Yeah, you have to know it's there, basically. Yeah. And so for me and for channels like you guys on YouTube, for the time being, it's a word of mouth game. It's like getting your listeners to share it with their friends, with their family. That's the growth strategy. But I don't sit and strategize about YouTube very much because YouTube is a sinking ship in my mind. I'm going to ride that sinking ship all the way to the bottom of the ocean before I swim back up to the surface and look for some kind of life raft or something. But I don't sit here and think, how can I game Susan's algorithm to try to win the next round? Susan hates people like us, and we have no prospect for long-term success there. It's all about what the next thing is. Because the good news for channels like mine and channels like yours, there is an appetite for this sort of content. Just who's going to wise up to host it, and it's not Susan. It's going to be someone else.
What's interesting too with you, Matt, is that you get a lot of despite like you have a good sized channel, don't get me wrong, but you're not like super gigantic. You're not like blowing up like Tim Pool has at the moment. But you get a lot of respect from other channels. I see all the time people talk about you and your content and how I think it's because your nature is to be very judicious in how you approach a topic.
Sure.
But like I see like Robert Barnes on Viva Fry talk about you, or obviously there've been some other people in the past. Like I think I've seen Brett Weinstein mention your stream before. So it is really interesting, and I think you kind of caught the wave at that right particular point too.
It certainly was. I don't know if lucky is the right term, but I got into this game at a good time, and it bums me out. It bums me out that it's difficult to grow my channel, obviously, but it bums me out that this is no longer a meritocracy. That if you come into YouTube fresh right now with the best content of your genre, if you don't toe the Susan line, you're not really going to be discovered or promoted. It's not a back when I started, let's put it this way. Back when I started, if you made the right video at the right time, anybody could catch that wave. You get a little viral play, you get a little boosted audience, and if you keep that audience satisfied, you can really grow. Now, it's very disheartening to know no matter how good the video you make is, it doesn't have the same prospect for viral success that used to exist on YouTube when it was left more to the mathematical or just the performance metrics of the video. The video got good engagement, good likes, good comments. The system would recognize that as hey, there's something special going on with this video. Let's recommend it some more. And then the magic happened. Now it's like that guy's on the bad guy list. So make sure he's buried in the corner.
Yeah, we had our first live stream. Of course, I've talked to you about this before, but our very first live stream was yanked. Don't get me wrong. We were full of all kinds of technical issues because neither one of us are tech guys, and Tank especially. He's pretty much anti-tech, yet he produces the show for me. So, but yeah, we just started streaming live on YouTube again because of that, because they were just like, nope, can't stream. And we're like, screw this. So we've been building up over D Live for the last, I guess, 5 months now. We've been streaming.
You know, the weird thing about D Live is too that I've noticed, it's not just a political platform. I see guys on there playing video games and stuff, kind of what YouTube used to be, or in its non-political sphere. But for some reason, it can't pick up the way YouTube is. And I don't really know why. I'd like to see. I mean, I'd like to get your opinion on why you think that might be.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we have a small presence on D Live, and it grows over time. I know there are some people who are doing really well on D Live, and that's just in the live streaming realm. If you're talking in the video realm in general, BitChute and Rumble are doing pretty well right now, and Rumble's talking like they're going to have live streaming capability pretty soon. BitChute has been saying that for a while. So none of those, because those places are still the de facto place for people who have been deemed wrong thinkers by YouTube and Twitter and all the rest of the places that police ideology in that way, they just don't have the mass that YouTube does. That's not going to be a switch that hits overnight, but the slow growth is there on those platforms. And I think in particular, it's going to take the banning on YouTube of a major player, and so some of them already have been, arguably. But I mean, when YouTube finally goes too far and bans, say, like a Joe Rogan or a Steven Crowder or someone on that tier of this realm, and that person takes their audience to another spot like that, the scale could tip. I don't know, maybe not against YouTube, because YouTube has, makeup tutorials and people doing their food reviews and a whole genre of stuff. But for this particular area of YouTube is right on the cusp of becoming irrelevant. They push it a few inches more. Arguably, it's already there. So, yeah, I know it's not satisfying to just go over to D Live now and be like, well, it's not numerically comparable to YouTube. Yeah, but let's check back in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years.
Right.
Maybe it's D Live, maybe it's not, but there's going to be somebody who's, I think, major player in this arena, and I don't think it's YouTube.
Are you working with Rumble or Library or any of those other alternatives yet?
I have accounts and I post there. I don't necessarily know people who run it. Sometimes they reach out to me, so I guess I've had contacts, but I don't know anybody well at those particular spots.
Okay, no, I was just curious because we've started uploading there. We've started doing a locals page. Although Tank takes care of the show, I take care of my own channel over on All-1. By the way, we got a lot of people in the chat from your show. I see Raggle Fraggle in here and whomever else, some familiar names that I've seen or heard over the years.
Thanks for coming over, guys.
Yeah. So guys, please give us a sub if you like us. Go check us out. And I also have my own independent channel called All-1, which is underneath, obviously, here. In any case, but yeah, we've been looking at these platforms. I know everyone was talking about BitChute when it was coming up, and I find BitChute totally insufferable. It just doesn't want to work for me.
It needs a little polish for sure. A lot of people say it reminds them of like an old porn site or something like that. Yeah, and I know the search function is not ideal. And so I understand. This is part of the frustration. I think YouTube as a system, absent Susan, absent the people who run it, is actually fantastic. The fact that you can upload a multi-hour HD video and have it process lickety split, basically nobody else can duplicate that. That's because the cost of the infrastructure to make that happen is incredibly high. And just the cost of developing all that interface and all the way that the user interacts with the whole website, that's all a lot of time and a lot of resources. And so for me, I'm someone who still uses YouTube, obviously, both as a creator and a consumer, because I like to go to one place and have everyone who I like to watch just in one list where I can roll through them. That's the best thing about YouTube. But I recognize that YouTube doesn't like me or any of those people that I'm watching. So for me, it's not, even though I'm not as frequent of a user of some of these alternative platforms, I still do what I can to support them. You know, I'll support BitChute on Subscribestar. I'll help out DLive by streaming there and by supporting people over there if I can. So I think it's key for people to do that, even if you don't want to leave YouTube today. If we all just kind of help out people who are developing alternative products, even that's helpful because YouTube has basically a monopoly in this environment. And if we help out some people with who have some competitive spirit, we're thinking long term there, and we'll help ourselves long term.
Well, for certain, they keep shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, when you have very large platforms, very, very large personalities, and you just deplatform them out of nowhere, you're going to make people angry, and eventually they're going to say, "Screw this." I mean, one of the biggest conveniences of YouTube for me is that it has an app I can use on my smart TV. I don't always have to be in front of a computer. You know, I could be in the kitchen with the TV on and listen to something, which I know they hate because they want the video, but I'm just listening to the audio, right? But yeah, I mean, that's one of the conveniences. And eventually, like you said, it's going to get to the point where it's like, yeah, there's some stuff on here, but you neuter everybody. You know, you decide to cut their balls off, and there's nothing on here I want to watch anymore.
Well, I love when Susan released that latest, it was a blog post where they said you're not allowed to question the results of the election. Because part of what they were saying, I don't know who wrote it. It wasn't Susan, but it's the person who wrote it.
Right.
What they were saying, the content of that blog post or letter was, look at these great stats about how we directed everyone to NBC and CBS and CNN and all the cable or regular TV news channels. Look, we direct people to authoritative sources. And of course, that's annoying if you're in this environment where you're creating alternative media because they're stacking the competitive deck against you. But it's just on a general level, it's so frustrating to me when people don't understand why their product is successful, whether it's YouTube or anybody else who makes a consumer product. If you look at YouTube and think, okay, why do people love this? It's because they see people in their bedrooms like this trio here, and they feel like they're real people they can connect with and have a real life conversation with. There's a reason people are cutting their cable because they don't want to watch that detached, overproduced, narrative-driven nonsense. They want to hear from a real person to whom they can relate. And so for YouTube to turn around and betray those creators and those consumers and saying, and brag about how they're directing you to the exact sort of content that you left to come to YouTube in the first place. It's just so tone deaf. It's so unself-aware about why people love it. And it's, what I wouldn't give to have an hour to sit in the YouTube boardroom and just ask a few questions and talk to these people about what the hell their philosophy is. Because all they have to do is just sit back and let the successful system they built succeed. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's because they're technocrats, man, and they think that they know better than you, and you don't get to deserve to have the free flow of information. And if they protect you from the bad thoughts and the bad ideas, only good moral people will be created from their institution, I guess.
Well, I don't know, because the one person that got a chance to do something like this was Tim Pool when he sat on Joe Rogan and talked to Jack Dorsey and whatever the other chick's name is.
JJ.
Yeah. And they were either outright lying the whole time, or they're just absolutely stupid.
That was such an incredible episode, though. And what was revealing about that was Tim knew more about Twitter's operation than Jack did. And it kind of confirmed Jack is the CEO, obviously, but he has handed off virtually every meaningful piece of authority in that company. It appears he doesn't even have a basic understanding of that company's day-to-day at this point.
Yeah, it's really strange. I actually just watched it probably a month ago, or listened to it. And having everything that's transpired on Twitter since then, with how censorious they've gotten since that time, it's such like a weird mind fuck to hear these guys sit here with like a straight face say, oh, this and that, when obviously, like I said, obviously they're either outright lying that night, or you're right, Jack Dorsey just has no idea what's going on. But I wonder too, if he did know what was going on, he would even care. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that'd be open to dissident views at this point. From what I've seen,
it's tough for me to read him. I can never decide if he, like you said, is he, does he just not know what's going on in his own company, or is he an actual evil actor? I've concluded personally that I think he's just handed off most responsibilities, and he doesn't really pay attention to what's going on in his own company anymore. I think, but who knows? I'm not a Jack Dorsey fan either way, so whatever. Yeah,
well, but that's kind of, brings me into what we're talking about. Well, me and Bill's been talking about this last couple of weeks, I guess, is, what is the future of alternative platforms? And like you're saying, like, YouTube's big and it's really nice. We've got it on Amazon. You can it's there. It's kind of everyone's standby or your go-to. And like today, I went and bought a new cell phone because mine broke, and it comes with YouTube preloaded on it. It's Android. Yeah. So there it is. So, I mean, how do you feel about maybe breaking these guys up and kind of putting a leash on their power?
Well, I don't know if I would favor the forcible breakup, as in like break up separate YouTube from Google or anything like that. I do think that 230, whether you want to repeal it, or my position on 230 would be some sort of clarification, some sort of objective standards for publishers and platforms, and to see that more strictly enforced. Because I don't have a problem with people who want to be, or who want their platform. That's kind of the confusing word to use in this case, but their property to be editorialized. Right. They want to control the content that's on it. If it's your property, you want to control it, that's fine, but you are responsible for the content that's on that platform. And if you defame people, or if you otherwise commit criminal conduct, you need to be held liable for that. If you, so the problem now is obviously they want to both control the content that's on the site and also be immune from legal liability from wrongful use of the site. And that's an unfair use of the system. So what we need, I think, on 230 is stricter standards or clearer definitions about what exactly what are the rules for a publisher? What are the rules for a platform, such that places like YouTube and Twitter can't exercise the editorial control of a publisher while also enjoying the legal protections from being a platform. And Trump, of course, is all about the repeal 230. And I understand the idea that we want to remove the legal protections for these companies so that we can, so that maybe they'll stop abusing people so much. That's the idea. But I worry if we just repeal 230 and we don't have protections for true platforms, it makes it very difficult for a competitor to come in and actually be a platform in this. Because if there's no liability protection for a new startup tomorrow that wants to be a video hosting platform, and suddenly they're liable for me or Blonde defaming someone on our stream, which is bound to happen probably. That's not easy. That's not an easy liability for someone to assume. If you're a small startup and all of a sudden you've got a large defamation suit against you for something you didn't even say, that will kind of discourage people from getting into that game. So
yeah, that's kind of classic like rent seeking, where you have the bigger kind of industry basically asking Congress and such, or the legislatures, to make up rules to keep others out, essentially, because they can afford the cost while they know startups can't.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I'd agree with you on that, Matt, that it's just not it's not a good idea to repeal it at all, but it needs to be well defined. Unfortunately, the way it looks to me is Biden's about to be the president, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere good as far as the freedom of speech on the internet.
No, I think these sites are going to get worse. I think we're going to see more crackdown. That's probably 2021's easiest prediction: more censorship on the Silicon Valley tech platforms. Wow, what a bold one. But yeah, I don't see any indicator that they are intent on rolling back. And with every excess they've committed in the last few years, have you ever heard Susan or Jack or Mark Zuckerberg or any of them say, that was kind of a little far. We've changed our minds. We're actually going to free this up a little bit. It's never happened. They only constrict. So,
well, with the whole coronavirus thing, dissident opinions have been punished even more severely than ever have been. So you might not ever get your hit piece like you want, but you're not going to get your voice out at all. With this kind of attitude. It's kind of going back to what you were saying before. What YouTube used to be was YouTube, the random people with weird shower curtain backgrounds, talking about stuff. And now it's CNN and all these elitists and guys that are run the world, and most of them are full of shit, and that's all we've got to listen to. Part of me thinks this might be like a stupid point on some of this, but I think a lot of this alternative tech is suffering from a marketing issue as well. Like Rumble, for instance, it looks bad. BitChute doesn't look great, but I could even put up a BitChute if the automatic uploads work. So, but we're so far in the game that it's so easy to turn to the polished product and sign on and watch your favorite cooking show. That's what your mom's going to do. They're not going to. They're not going to go to BitChute. They're not going to go to Rumble. They're not going to go to a lot of these guys. And it's rough because I feel like I don't know where we can go to next. Especially if you guys are a lot bigger. If something were to happen and then Wiki did come down to you guys, like, I don't want to see you go. I'd like you to be able to go somewhere else, but you're going to be suffering a lot on a different platform.
Yeah, of course. But I know that for communities like ours, they're very durable. And I don't want to get the boot from Susan, and I don't want anyone I listen to get the boot from Susan. But I think that boot is going to swing this year. And at the end of the day, I like YouTube, but I'm not going there for YouTube's interface, or I'm not going there for their pleasing aesthetics. I'm going there to listen to the people that I want to listen to. And YouTube could be anything. It could be DLive. It could be BitChute. It could be Rumble. Maybe they improve their aesthetics down the line. But that's the thing that drives me nuts about Susan. She just doesn't appear to realize, or I don't know. It's probably malice in her case. It's not ignorance. She probably understands.
It has to be. Yeah.
So
I have no doubts these guys would take a cut in their paycheck if it meant that they could side with CNN and MSNBC. Why would they come up to bat for any like dissident creators? They're just not those kind of people.
They never have. They never have. Susan every piece of Susan's reign at YouTube has been negative for the independent creator. And that it doesn't matter if you have 1 million subscribers or 10. If you're an independent person who has something critical to say or an original thought that might go against the grain on anything they deem too important or to have dissident thoughts about, then you're screwed. So yeah, I mean that, and it's not that's the other thing about YouTube too. Why else do you go there? It's not just to connect with a real person, but it's to hear weird opinions. It's to go down weird rabbit holes and hear people talk about strange conspiracy theories about stuff.
Dude, back in like 2010 through 2012, maybe 2014 at the latest, there was so much just awesome like tinfoil conspiracy craziness. And I love that stuff just for the entertainment factor.
Yeah.
Some of it, there might be strings of truth throughout it, but regardless of that, it's just entertaining to me. And like, I remember coming across the flat earthers, and I watched for like a week everything I could on these people that believed in the flat earth. And it was just hilarious. And
they rated our chat so hard like a year or two back. And seriously, I don't Blonde does what she does. Sometimes she gets a little heavy-handed in controlling people in the chat, but I don't. I swear to God, I'll show a screenshot of behind the scenes on my channel. The only terms that are banned in my chat are flat and earth, because these people went so hard as like, all right, bending my principles on this one. No one's talking about flat earth anymore. These people were crazy, man. They just blew up the chat. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah, we had our very first flat earth comment a couple weeks ago in our stream. One guy we were talking about knowledge or something, stupid. And he was like, "Oh, is that why you believe you live on a ball?" And I'm like, dude, I be honest with you, I don't really care if the earth's flat or not. So it's not really something I'm worried about. But yeah, I guess that means we've made it. So if Matt Christiansen had to ban it, then I guess that means that's the status.
I have no idea how many of them are serious or if it's all just one big trolling effort. I don't know. But at this point, there's no conspiracy theory too crazy for me. 2020 was such an insane year that I'm like, conspiracy theory is probably more accurate than CNN or whatever the hell else they're pushing.
I've loved that evolution of yours, by the way, because I've always been willing to entertain tinfoil, and you're always like, no tinfoil. And I've been seeing you this past year just creep and creep and creep more. I mean, you're watching Frank over on Quite Frankly, so you got to be getting some tinfoil.
Oh yeah, he loves to get into weird topics.
Yeah. But we're coming up on a half hour here, bud. So if you got to get going right on the bottom of the hour, I got a couple questions to ask you before we get out of here.
Yeah, I got maybe 5 more minutes.
Okay. Well, Tank, you got anything else for him before I ask him my few questions here?
No, you're good. Go ahead, take off.
Okay. Well, one, how did your wife take it the other night on the show where you announced you were going to be knocking her up this year?
Without getting too personal, that was not actually my idea. That was a command. So
okay.
No, it's seriously speaking, we wanted to get married for its own sake, but we want to be parents too. And this comes up on the stream all the time. Like, isn't it kind of scary to become a parent in a crazy time? Yeah, but at the same time, all times are really crazy. And what's the number one way to get through difficult times? It's through family. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Susan's going to chop off my head in 2021 or not, but I want to know that, I know that a complete life has got to include parenthood. I don't want to miss out on that. And so every year that I put that off, that's an experience that I potentially miss out on, So I in my younger years, I questioned whether I wanted to be a parent. Now I don't at all. Now I really look forward to it, and I can't wait. So no, she was not surprised by that announcement. That's been in the works.
Yeah. You just made a comment last night live. You were like, "Oh, I haven't said this to her directly or something," but I know you've been wanting to have children, and being married first was a big part of it. I mean, I did the same thing. I think I met my wife not too long before you met yours, and obviously. She's pregnant.
Right.
Mine is pregnant
right.
now.
How far along is she? I remember you said that.
I think she's 16 weeks or so.
Okay.
We're supposed to know. She's supposed to do gender reveal at the end of this month and all that. So.
Oh, cool.
Well, whatever. I'm just along for the ride, man.
Yeah. You don't have a preference at all?
When I was younger, so. But then the other question is how gay are you actually for Blonde's brother? And is he not potentially the flannel daddy Grand Thumb Mike Jones? Because I could understand that.
I actually don't know who the hell is that. I
don't know who Grand Thumb is? Yeah, you do.
Grand Thumb. Yeah, Grand Thumb.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say he's very similar to Grand Thumb. But to be fair, I hung out with this guy once in 2016. All right, so he's kind of a legend in my mind, more so than like my actual friend or close contact or anything like that. I can't speak too personally because I don't know what boundaries exist. But
I ask you to, if you know.
All I can say, which I've said on the stream before, is he reminds me of an intellectual Danny McBride. Like in appearance, and he has like the handlebar mustache vibe and stuff, but he's a very, very bright guy with opinions. As far as I understand, he's like the guy who red pilled Blonde. Okay, so that should tell you about his perspective on things. He definitely has some exotic opinions, let's put it that way. But when you talk to him about it, he's very, very quick and very persuasive in explaining why he thinks that way. And I love people like that. I don't care what your opinion is. If you're well reasoned and you can explain to me exactly why it is that you believe what you believe, that's a great person to talk to, whether you agree or not. So he seems like the sort of dude I would definitely hang out with if we lived in the same town. But alas, we do not. So it's a friendship missed at this point.
Well, that was pretty much it, but I would agree with you. Those are always the best people to talk to. I'm far more interested generally when I speak with somebody interested in how they think than trying to explain to them what I'm thinking most of the time.
Yeah.
People are infinitely curious, but I don't know, man. I guess with all that, we ought to let you go. I want to get Rebecca on here. I've emailed her, but you know how she is with emails. So I know it's not your thing, but
well, if it's any bit of an enticement, I just got married in the Orthodox Church last month.
Oh, congrats.
To a Roman Catholic, so I could give Blonde some insight on what she might be getting into if she's considering converting.
Are you hopping on the fatherhood train as well?
We're looking at maybe starting to try in March.
Okay, cool.
We're getting into the game a little bit late. But we both want to. I'm scared to death, but we're going to try. Yeah.
But that's kind of how you know it's worth doing. All the best things you do in life are terrifying when you confront them. Every risk seems terrifying, and then in retrospect, you look back and you're like, "Why the hell didn't I do that sooner?" And that's exactly what I hope for in this case.
Even if you go through a lot of pain and suffering along the way, too, man. Yeah. Like, because it's that's what makes it worth it. That is in the end what makes the reward worth something. There's no value without the suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, thank you guys for having me. Very much appreciated.
Well, we appreciate you. I mean, we got 42 live viewers right now because of you, Matt.
Sweet. Glad to hear.
Well, we'll let you go. We're going to hang out here for a little bit afterwards, and
sure.
You take care, man. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Happy New Year, guys.
And happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. All right. Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. That was Matt Christiansen. Tank, you got any thoughts on the you get everything out you wanted to get out?
Yeah, the main thing I really want to get his input on where he thinks this alternative tech is going, because we've talked in private about this, but we're anyone that's left in the chat, I guess I'll go ahead and let you guys in. We've kind of been thinking about what we can do with this, because we're trying to create a space for you guys to come and talk about some ideas that you have, that may not be within the mainstream. So, we want to create that kind of space, but we have to have a place to do it. And as everyone probably knows, YouTube's a sinking ship for this sphere. So, anybody that's, paying attention, DLive Entropy is pretty okay. It's kind of cool. It's got some good interface. So, check it out. Try to follow us over there if you do that. I don't know what you got.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's about building communities. Obviously, Matt has a great community around him. A lot of the people from him just tweeting it out have come over here. So we really appreciate that. We got Yiz the Eunuch in the chat. If you guys don't know her, go check her out, because we had her on last Wednesday, although he has not got kind of went off in the weeds a little bit. We probably should have. We were both tired. I had been fasting, and I thought that maybe my fast was making me a little more irritable. But it actually turns out not too long after we got off stream, I laid down for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was, and I felt great afterwards. So I just needed a nap. In any case, but we love Yiz, and we have our buddy Kizza on, who we know through her show. We should be having Don from Plebeian Media on the 13th, and I have to check up with that because he's very busy, and it was a tentative date. But otherwise, yeah, we're guys. We're always streaming Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're not taking off. I think we've skipped 2 shows in the last 5 months or something. I think we've skipped 2 Wednesdays. If we move the time, we'll let you know. We try to or are trying to get people on, more people, and more interviews. But we have our own unique perspectives. And again, it's about building communities. And we don't even care if you agree with us completely. What it is a mindset of liberty, leave me alone, versus the authoritarians. And we cannot allow the authoritarians and the commies to win, more or less. So I don't know. You got anything else on that, Tank?
No, that's it for me.
All right, guys. Well, short stream today, but the main thing was just to have Matt on, and we thought we'd stream a little bit afterwards. We will be back on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Oh, I had someone in the chat ask me where I'm from. I am from West Virginia, originally Maryland, but I live in West Virginia now. And I don't know if Tank wants to disclose his general location, but he's from the South.
I'm from the South.
He's from the South. We're both from Appalachia. Or as I grew up saying Appalachia, but everyone else says Appalachia. So I don't know. So that's where we're from, guys. In any case, just tune in Wednesday night, 7 p.m. It'll probably just be me and Tank talking about what we like to talk about, which is random things and rabbit holes and all kinds of stuff. Maybe we'll get into the big boog on Wednesday, the 6th, when the Congress and the Senate finally meet to certify the election, because there's some big stuff that might happen there, or maybe not, maybe just big protest. But with all that said, friends, again, you can check us out over on DLive, ends_justify_memes. Right now, we're on YouTube as well, the Ends Justify the Memes. I have my own channel, All-1. Type in All-1 channel on YouTube. I do my own content there. And with all that said, this has been the Ends Justify the Memes. And remember, the ends always justify those memes. Play that outro, Tank.
I'm talking about all the way to the top, yeah. Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in. But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah. Macho madness, yeah, it's got more to offer. And President Jack Tunney thinks that I got, yeah. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. Cards stacked against the Macho Man Randy Savage in WrestleMania 3. Yeah, let me say it, yeah. Let me say it out loud. And let me point to the president of the World Wrestling Federation. The Macho Man Randy Savage is not happy with your decision, yeah. I am the cream in the World Wrestling Federation.